Have you ever chased for perfection or maybe felt like you're not good enough? What if I told you that at times perfectionism is actually a mask for insecurity? Today, let's just unpack the difference between perfectionism and insecurity, because at times we don't know which one it is as it's happening. Let's unpack how flawlessness actually has to do with fear instead of ambition. All right, to start this off, perfectionism is deeply rooted in self-doubt. Okay, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is perfect, but if you come to think of it, if you want to make things perfect, it means that you are not fully secure with what you're doing, and you actually are trying to, be so good that the work that you put out does not have any flaws, So you just want to make sure that, yeah, you know what, when this work comes out, it must be 10,000% correct, only to find that that's not what life is about. Yes, you can feel like you must deliver something that is good. I understand quality. I also prefer to give quality whenever I do things in general. But if your need or want for that quality surpasses you actually finishing what you need to finish, then you see the Hadidas also agree. Number two, there's a tendency of pushing for perfection only to realize it's actually fear of being criticized. People fear judgment, people fear their work not being good or whatever they're doing. They fear that negative criticism. And guys, negative criticism is important because it builds you, and it shows you where your flaws are. If you have things that you are not good at, the only way to know is by people telling you, right? But now, if you want to do your things, if you want to make sure that everything is perfect, then it's now going to go back to you not getting the correct negative criticism that you need to hear. Number three is validation seeking, right? So this whole perfectionism thing, you'll be pushing so hard just to be known or to show that when you are the best. In an instance like that, that is insecurity, because instead of delivering the way you need to deliver, or instead of doing what you need to do, when you wanna go overboard, nah, bro. So honestly, guys, we all know the downfalls of validation seeking. You'll get responses from people which you want to hear, but you shouldn't be hearing, and everything is within you, guys. Everything is within you. Do not seek validation from people outside. Seek validation from within. And if you need correction here and there, negative criticism is important, but do not seek validation from other people. Yes, feedback is important, but do not seek validation. Seek criticism. And then number four, we have a harsh inner voice. I've personally had this where there's something telling you that you're not good enough for a certain thing, and you'll just step back, and so some people push for perfectionism to avoid that feeling and those thoughts, where that the harsh inner you will then criticize the real you, saying that, hey, this is BS, and that inner voice can help you to improve what you need to improve, but people push for perfectionism to avoid that inner voice, which you should actually listen to. Number five is the avoidance of being vulnerable. This is especially with men, where you try to be so perfect that you are not in a place of vulnerability where people don't see your weakness. And I understand that from a social point of view, where when people know or see your weaknesses, they'll use them to bash you and whatnot. That's understandable. But when it comes to you pushing for perfectionism to avoid being vulnerable, then it's wrong, because that's not empowering you. That's not helping you in any positive way. So the best thing is just to work the way you normally work and put your work out there. This means that you have an opportunity to improve next time. Under number 6, we have a low self-worth or low self-esteem, or however you want to call it. But you might want to push out perfect things or perfect work to avoid having that label placed on you that this one is trash. You will try to push for perfectionism, and this then will lead to other things such as procrastination, because instead of doing what needs to be done, you want to make sure that, hey, because I feel worthless, let me now go and put in more work than I'm supposed to, so that my sense of worth can increase for these people and for me. That's not the way to go about doing things. But if you have a low self-worth, or if you feel like your self-esteem is low, then that has nothing to do with your work or what you're doing. That has more to do with your mental well-being and your mental state of mind. It has nothing or little to do with your work and little to do with business illispan. And then another thing, the reason why I say that this is a weakness instead of a power. When you're supposed to do something and then you procrastinate and you procrastinate. No, I just want it to be right, and then you procrastinate. So you are basically masking. Your procrastination, which is negative, by the way. You are basically masking your procrastination with perfectionism. Like, oh, I need this to be 1,000%, and before it's 1,000%, I'm not finishing it. Do you understand that logic? Do you get that logic? Where you're saying, if I don't finish this, if you're basically saying, if I finish this, it needs to be perfect. If it's not perfect, then I'm not finishing it. You see that you're already putting yourself in the backseat of this race, because now if you're going to be looking at finishing things in a perfect way, then you're not going to finish things. You're not going to finish some things. No one is perfect. Number 8 is imposter syndrome. I've discussed this before a while back, where you get into a space, whether it's a workplace, whether it's a type of business, whether it's a certain type of investment, whatever it is. As soon as you get into spaces where you feel like you don't belong, then you want to make sure and push for, it also has to do with self-worth. So imposter syndrome can actually force you into thinking you're being a perfectionist, only to find that that's not the case. You are just procrastinating or doing all these other negative things that we've spoken about earlier. Number 9 is overcompensation. You have someone who's watching you. You're trying to impress this person, so you go overboard and you're trying to make sure that everything is perfect. So you see that that's not perfectionism, that's insecurity. You're trying to push so that whoever's watching you is impressed, and so you then overcompensate for the sake of perfection, right? But it's not actually perfection, it's you just trying to increase your worth. So you overcompensate to increase your worth for the next person. All right, so even in that sense, it's not a strength, it is a weakness. If you have an inability to properly celebrate successes, then you are not going to push to finish your work. You're going to push to try to make it perfect. So this is how I've noticed people think. When you have a perfectionist mindset, you want to make sure that it's 1,000%, right? So your celebration is that work being perfect, right? That's your celebration. What then? After that, what then? Your work is perfect. You've done whatever you need to do. And by perfect, I'm putting that in quotes. You want to be perfect, sharp. You are perfect, right? But now, right after that, there's no way to celebrate, because your celebration is over. Your celebration was that perfection that you wanted out. And once that is out, now it's like, oh, now what? So you do that over and over again, to a point where once you've been doing it for so long that you know that once you are done, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to celebrate. So you prolong the finishing of whatever you're doing. You prolong the ending of whatever you're doing. Why? Just to protect your perfectionism image, right? And that's a huge flop, bruh. That's a huge flop. Oh shit, my battery is about to die. Right. So yeah, that's a huge flop. So if you have an inability to celebrate your successes, you are gonna keep pushing for perfectionism and not finishing the stuff just so you can, bask in your perfectionism and not finish your work. Because once it's done, that's the celebration. You've completed. It's over. And some people can't stand that. They can't celebrate after you're done. You can't even celebrate. You just want to wrap up. All right. So as I always say, guys, knowledge is a powerful weapon. Arm yourselves, and thanks for watching.